Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Calvin coming back at you with another Calvin's movie review. And today we are going to be talking about the absolute atrocity that is Star Wars The Last Jedi, written and directed by the brilliant Ryan Ruin Johnson. So the movie starts off in the opening crawl. The First Order reigns. That's just kind of interesting, being that the First Order's main superweapon, their main base, Star Killer base, was destroyed at the end of the first movie, and somehow they are just reigning supreme, not on the run or not retreating at all. It's actually quite the opposite. The Resistance is somehow now on the run, and this is just a day after the first movie, The Force Awakens, from what I'm to understand. Literally the next day. That's just ridiculous. Like, how? Why? You blow up their main base, and now all of a sudden you're on the run. So, opening scene, we have, like I said, the Resistance evacuating one of their base planets, and the First Order comes out of hyperspace and is getting ready to decimate the base and all of the Resistance, because somehow there's just 400 of them with a handful of ships, literally. And the best pilot in the galaxy, Poe Dameron, attacks an Imperial dreadnought by himself. One pilot, one ship, one droid. And of course, since the droid is smart, intelligent, evidently he's telling Poe in his droid language that he's nervous. And Poe tells BB-8, happy beeps, happy beeps. Just kind of dumb. It's actually very dumb. Can you imagine? Can you imagine for 1 second Luke Skywalker in the original movies telling R2-D2, happy beeps? Happy beeps, R2. No, you can't. I'll answer that for you. Moving on, one starfighter takes out every single cannon on the Dreadnought. Every single cannon. And yeah, they try to have a bullcrap explanation why it's too small, it's too fast, it's too close. That's dumb. That's crap. Whoever designed that Dreadnought needs to be fired, needs to be executed. It's just dumb. It's just a stupid part of the story with no other use than to have another stupid scene literally right after it of the bombers that somehow move at 1 mile per hour because that's what they needed for the story. I do like how they had the bombers have the little World War II type oxygen mask. I had a nice little throwback to World War II there, and the glass where the pilots are and the gunners kind of looks like World War II, and a turret at the bottom like World War II. But never in Star Wars history have you seen any vehicle, let alone a military aircraft, spacecraft, moving at 1-2 miles an hour. It's just unheard of. It's stupid. It's dumb. Once again, like I said in my last video about J.J. Abrams, have they ever seen a Star Wars movie? Ryan Johnson, have you ever seen a Star Wars movie? Now, I must say, Ryan Johnson did exactly what he set out to do. He wanted to divide the Star Wars fan base. That is a fact. There is a video on the internet you can watch. Type it on Google. Ryan Johnson wants to divide Star Wars fan base. It's there. It's real. And boy, did he do that. Because if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, the paid by Disney critics gave The Last Jedi like a 92, 93 something. Just paid. Yeah, sure. I mean, if I was paid hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, I'd say it was a good movie too. Who wouldn't? And the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes of The Last Jedi, I haven't looked in a couple months, 46, 47, 48. Congratulations, Ryan Johnson. You really did exactly what you wanted to do, and it is absolute crap. Furthermore, we have bombs dropping from a space bomber in space. I will say that again. We have bombs dropping in space. Now, we have had an explanation after the movie came out of the device. The bombs had some device on it, some gravitational pull type deal to make the bombs drop in space. And there's been a few other instances, a few other scenes needed explanation, needed explaining of Rian Johnson's movie after the movie came out. If you need to explain anything in your movie after it came out, Rian Johnson, you have failed. Failed. So, anyway, we have Poe Dameron making contact with General Hux and his officers on their bridge, on the bridge of their ship, and he's trying to stall General Hux by acting like he cannot hear him. We have General Hux talking and Poe saying, "Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And General Hux somehow doesn't know that he's tooling with him. That's just the most ridiculous term I've ever heard. I guess it's a British thing. And then we have Poe Dameron proceeding to cut a "your mama" joke with General Hux. Whenever he finally is talking to General Hux and the communication is there, obviously, we have Poe Dameron telling General Hux that Leia has a message for him from his mom. So then we have Finn waking up from his coma that Kylo Ren put him in at the very end of the last movie. And he, bumps his head on the glass and is in some big water suit. I guess they don't use Bacta tanks anymore. And falls off the table. That was just so funny. And then we have Finn walking like this in his water healing suit with tubes, hoses, water going everywhere, just oblivious to what's going on. Like, I don't know if that's supposed to be funny or just what are they trying to do? What were they trying to do with this movie? It is honestly a comedy. You cannot take any of the action serious because you just know that there's something stupid about to be said or happen. You just cannot take this movie funny at all. And then we have Luke Skywalker. The very end of The Force Awakens, you had Rey and Luke Skywalker, meeting and Rey holding out the lightsaber, and it ends. And a lot of people were mad about that. And now, 2 years later, 2017, we actually get to see what that conversation is going to be like, what's going to be said. We haven't heard Luke Skywalker say anything in a live-action Star Wars movie in decades. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? He takes his old lightsaber, his father's lightsaber, and he throws it behind him. That is exactly what Rian Johnson and Disney are saying to us, the Star Wars fans. We are just throwing you away. We're just throwing Star Wars down the trash, flushing it down the toilet. That is a perfect metaphor for what Disney has done to the Star Wars universe. Furthermore, like I said, it's the first time that we got to see Luke Skywalker in decades, and Rian Johnson made him a coward. He's supposed to be the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, which obviously we know there is no Jedi Order because Disney / J.J. Abrams / Kathleen Kennedy just completely decimated Star Wars in their inaugural Disney Star Wars debut. And Mark Hamill tried to warn us months before The Last Jedi came out. He is literally seen in multiple interviews, the red carpet interviews, telling us that this is not what you think. He pretty much said, this is crap. It's garbage. Don't get excited without saying those exact words. So we have Luke Skywalker, a reclusive hermit, coward, hiding out on this hard to find planet, and we have him refusing to want to train Rey, telling her to go away, go away. It just makes no sense at all. It's just not what should have been Luke Skywalker at all. And then we have one of the most infamous scenes in recent movie history, definitely Star Wars movie history, of Luke Skywalker milking a space cow alien type deal by pressing in on, I'm assuming it's breast, and getting some more blue milk and drinking it. Just absolutely disgusting. And not only does he milk it with, I'm imagining the space alien cow's breast, every time he presses on it to get the milk out, it goes like, just like, really, like, my goodness gracious, Disney, what are you doing? You have absolutely no idea what you're doing. So we have Luke Skywalker multiple times basically saying, or actually saying, that he came to that planet to die. That's just not the heroic Luke Skywalker that I remember, and it's not the heroic Luke Skywalker that anyone remembers. Luke Skywalker is supposed to be the savior of the galaxy. He turned his father, his evil father, back from the dark side to the light side, and they just completely, or more specifically Rian Johnson, just absolutely decimated his character. Congratulations, Rian Ruin Johnson, you suck. And another thing that Rian Johnson made up for this movie is Star Wars space fuel. When has fuel ever been a thing in the Star Wars galaxy? Well, I'll answer that for you. It hasn't, because it isn't. It is not a thing. In the decades of Star Wars movies, games, comics, fuel has not existed. It's never been part of the story. And that's exactly what they made it for, is to be part of this dumb, ignorant, going nowhere story. The entire movie is a chase scene based around fuel. So after Poe gets back to his resistance ship, after taking out all the cannons on that massive dreadnought, and then the bombers basically sacrificing themselves to destroy the dreadnought, because the Spaceballs, which is basically what this entire franchise is, floated down from gravity power and destroy the dreadnought. So Poe is demoted by Leia. Then we have the First Order catching back up to the Resistance through hyperspace, because that's what this entire movie is about, literally. And we have Poe tell Leia, right after getting demoted, permission to jump in the X-Wing and blow something up, and Leia says, permission granted. And then we have Kylo Ren coming, and he's about to destroy the bridge where his mother is, and he knows his mother's there. He can see her, sense her, feel her, and he's about to press the button on his joystick to fire the rockets, and he doesn't. But then his TIE Fighter escorts do it for him, and R.I.P. Admiral Akbar. With one sentence of an explanation, we have that he was indeed blown up and shot out into space from Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter escorts missiles. And we have arguably the most infamous scene, I know I've already said that, in all of Star Wars history, of the absolutely terrible CGI of Leia, who has never been trained in the Force before, ever, just miraculously alive in the vacuum of space, because that's completely plausible, and reaches out her hand and floats back into the ship the resistant ship. The worst CGI ever. Like, absolutely atrocious. Like, what are they doing? And what we have next is Leia floating back through the destroyed bridge, and Poe and Finn running to Leia, seeing her float through space, and then a door opens. A door opens, separating the vacuum of space and the inside of that resistance ship, and then the scene cuts. Because that's not possible. I understand Star Wars is make believe. You cannot follow physics and science to a T whenever you are making a sci fi fantasy. But that is just absolutely ridiculous. A door opens up, separating oxygen from non oxygen, the vacuum of space, and miraculously, all the people, inhabitants of the ship, are not sucked out into space. So then we have Vice Admiral Hodo, who, in my opinion, should be called Vice Admiral Superwoman, because that is what she is. She is to appease the social justice warrior feminazis in the audience, just the man hating, men are trash, men can do no good, Admiral Superwoman. And I believe it is her who is talking, I think, to Poe, saying the resistance is the last spark to restore the Republic. Disney. It has been 30 years since the Rebel Alliance destroyed the Galactic Empire. Why is there not a Galactic Republic already? And yes, I understand there's been a couple sentences explaining how the Starkiller Base / First Order destroyed what little Republic planets were in existence at the end of the first movie. And that is a cheap reason to not have a Grand Army of the Republic, and to just follow in the original movie's footsteps, with the First Order being the Empire and the Resistance being the Rebel Alliance. So, since we have established that space fuel is a thing, and the entire basis that this entire movie is based around, we have a brilliant idea by Finn and Rose, who Rose just knocked out this dude and was about to turn him into the brig for trying to abandon ship because he knows all hope is lost. Just like we Star Wars fans know that all hope is lost. And so they have to contact Maz Kanata because she is the go-to person for the all-purpose we need something done. And she is busy fighting someone, and it's in a hologram, and she says, but I know the guy for the job. He's a master thief, a poet with a blaster, and an ace pilot. And I think Finn says, wow, sounds like this guy can do everything. She says, oh yes, he can. A sex joke in a Star Wars movie, ladies and gentlemen. Disney. And then we have Luke Skywalker finally deciding to train Rey, and he has her out on the edge of this cliff, and he says, reach out. Close your eyes and reach out. And she reaches out with her arm, and he has a little grass stick twig thingy, and he's tickling her hand, and he says, can you feel it? And she says, yes, I can feel it. And he slaps her hand. And that's just not something that you would see in the original movie. Just forced comedy. No, can you feel it? Like, really? Like, can you imagine Obi-Wan Kenobi and A New Hope, telling Luke Skywalker to close his eyes and reach out, and then tickling him, asking if he can feel it? I mean, no, you can't. Which brings me to my next point, which is Chewie and the Porgs. The Porgs, who Daisy Ridley in real life actually does not like. We had Chewie off screen murder a Porg or two and is cooking them, about to eat them. And then we have a little group, herd, family of Porgs go up to him and are crying. And one of them is just giving him this extremely sad, frowning, just in disgust, horror look on his face. And Chewie, the Chewbacca, the monster Wookiee that doesn't care about anything, actually doesn't eat the Porg that he already killed. That's just mind-blowing to me. And then we have the Porgs and Chewie in the Millennium Falcon cockpit, and one Porg is tearing up one of the seats, one Porg is pulling at a string from a headset that Chewie has, like with his mouth, with his teeth. And then we have another Porg in a little headset that is small enough for a Porg to fit around its head. So I don't really know if the Millennium Falcon had babies on board with a headset that could fit them. That's definitely interesting to say the least. Now we have another very infamous scene, the most wasted time in any Star Wars movie, possibly movie ever, the infamous Canto Blight. The casino world where Rose and Finn travel to find this master code breaker that can do all things, evidently, according to Maz. And they are looking for this master code breaker in the casino, and there's a little drunk alien. Honestly, one of the few times in the entire movie that I actually did laugh. I mean, I just kind of, wrote this movie off of, okay, this isn't a Star Wars movie, it's a comedy, so let me just enjoy it for what it is. And he thinks that BB-8 is a slot machine, and he keeps putting coins in BB-8. And we also have another social justice warrior scene, storyline thrown into this Canto Blight scene of horse racing is bad and evil, evidently. And I'm all for animal rights, but it just really just didn't fit. It just doesn't fit in the middle of a Star Wars movie that's about fuel. So after Rey told Luke Skywalker, forget you, you're a coward, I'm going to go and try and turn Kylo Ren to the light side to try to be the savior that we all need, Luke then decides that he's going to burn the sacred text and the old sacred tree holding the sacred text to the ground. And lo and behold, Yoda, Space Ghost Yoda, shows up and does something that we've never seen in the entire Star Wars universe ever. Is Space Ghost Yoda decides to go full Thor and send lightning down from the sky to burn the tree after Luke Skywalker decides that he's not going to. And so that's something new, definitely, from these movies that we've never seen. And I wish I had never seen it before, because it just changes the entire premise of the Star Wars Space Ghost. And Yoda was telling Luke Skywalker that Rey is what they need, and Luke, for some odd reason, Rian Johnson, was telling Yoda that he cannot be what Rey needs. He cannot teach the new generation of Jedi. He cannot be the savior of the galaxy once again. And then we have a total Disney Star Wars scene where we see an ironer coming down, and you think it's the foot of a walker or something. And no, actually that was just a gag scene, because it is indeed an ironer. And now we have Vice Admiral Superwoman tell Leia that she likes Poe, which is definitely surprising to me, because the entire movie, Poe and Vice Admiral Superwoman were arguing and bickering and not agreeing on anything. Poe actually mutinied, pointed his blaster at her, which is why he was captured when Leia shot him with a stun gun. So we have Rey now on Snoke's battle cruiser, captured by the First Order so she could get to Kylo Ren, and Kylo is taking her to meet Snoke. And mind you, we thought we were going to get to know who Snoke was. Where does he come from? Was he a Jedi? Was he a Sith? Was he something new? And actually no, because Rian Johnson just wanted to crap on all Star Wars fans, and Kylo Ren actually murders Snoke. So who was he? We don't know. Will we ever know? Probably not. And then that brings us to one of the very few fight scenes in this entire movie where Kylo and Rey are fighting Snoke's royal guard that have plastic armor. The armor actually looks like it's plastic. There's better looking armor in the Lord of the Rings movies, which are flawless and made 15 years ago. Then after Kylo and Rey defeat the royal guards, which obviously who wouldn't have thought that because their armor was made of plastic, Kylo is telling Rey to let the past die. Kill it if you have to. The Jedi, the Sith, the First Order, the Rebel Alliance, let it die. Kill it. All that is Rian Johnson telling us that he is killing our childhood. He is killing the original movies, the prequels, everything that Star Wars is. He is just killing it. He's absolutely sending it to death row, which, like I said earlier in this video, is exactly what he told someone he was going to do years ago in a video that is on YouTube. You can look it up. He wanted to divide the fan base, and oh boy, did he ever. So while Rey and Kylo are in the throne room, Vice Admiral Superwoman orders all of the resistance to get into the escape pods and fly down to the old rebel base on this crystal planet. And for some reason, the escape pods are moving, 1 mile an hour and are just getting decimated by the First Order's cannons. And there's a scene. You can watch, you can count. There's 8 escape pods. One of them blows up. There's 7. A scene happens. It cuts back to the escape pods. There's 12. Like, they're crapping on us. They're saying, you're stupid. You're dumb. You're not smart enough to realize this. You're going to buy this ticket anyway, and we're crapping on you. So while Kylo and Rey are in the throne room, Finn and Rose have now been captured because they were betrayed by the criminal that helped them escape Canto Blight. And Finn is fighting Captain Phasma, who we thought was going to be a big-time villain, and he calls her Chrome Dome. He literally calls Brienne of Tarth, who is Captain Phasma, Chrome Dome. If that's not Disney Star Wars, then I don't know what is. And then Phasma knocks Finn into a hole, and just a couple seconds later, Finn is, I guess, riding an elevator up out of this hole, and when he gets up to where Captain Phasma is, he says, "Hey," and she turns and he whacks her in the face, and she falls, and the ship is falling apart because Vice Admiral Superwoman decided to change Star Wars history and fly the capital ship into Snoke's battleship at light speed, which just changes Star Wars forever. Why didn't that happen in every Star Wars movie ever made? I'll tell you why, because it's stupid. So after Finn defeats Chrome Dome, BB-8 has commandeered a walker and is shooting stormtroopers, and he picks up Finn and Rose, and they're running. They're running through the hangar out towards the shield separating the hangar oxygen from outer space. And as soon as the camera gets up to the shield, because it's like going with them, the next scene, they're flying out of the hangar. Like, they're just saying that we're stupid. And what I have now seen is there was indeed a ship at the end of the hangar that they were running to. But the way that the cinematography, the way that Rian Johnson made it look like, is that they were just running to the end of the hangar, and then the next scene, you see them flying out of the hangar in a spacecraft. So now, the Resistance, everyone is down on the old Rebel base of the planet, and it's a salt planet, just to appease the fans of the original trilogy from Empire Strikes Back, the second movie. This is the second movie in this trilogy. And it's just to appease old fans of Hoth. And then we have Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker, or so we think, come out from the back of the caves, the back of the base, and he is talking to Leia. He has not seen his sister in decades. This is the first time we've seen Luke Skywalker and Leia have an interaction in decades. And of course, Disney threw a joke into it. Leia says, "I already know what you're gonna say. I changed my hair." And that's just not what anyone was expecting. But, Rian Johnson just wanted to subvert expectations, and boy, did he ever. So, on that note of old characters having reunions, Luke seemed more happy to see R2-D2 than he did to Leia, his own sister. And same goes for Chewie. He was actually mad that he was seeing Chewie. He was saying, "What are you doing here?" So Chewie and his co-pilots, being Porgs, fly down to the planet where the Resistance is, and Chewie makes an evasive maneuver to try to get the ties off of his back, and whenever he flips, a Porg slams his face or his whole body into the window, which is exactly what Rian Johnson has done to all of us. So what little Resistance fighters are left are flying these little piece of crap speeders, I wouldn't even call them spacecraft or a ship, straight into the First Order's walkers, a suicide mission. And there's also a cannon that the First Order has that has Death Star tech, which is a little off in my opinion, because the Death Star tech was not made out of a sun gun. It was made from kyber crystals and just shot a laser beam energy, not a sun gun that melts doors. And they realize that they're outgunned and outnumbered, and Poe orders a retreat. Well, Finn decides he's going to smash his little speeder into the sun gun, and Rose comes out of nowhere and hits his ship with hers at the last second to save his life. And they are right in front of the walkers, right in front of the First Order, yards away. And Finn wakes up Rose, and she says, "This is how we win, by not fighting the people we hate, but saving the ones that we love." I don't think that's ever been said before by any captain or any general ever. And then, in a completely creepy fashion, Rose kisses Finn yards away from the First Order. And they're just somehow not being shot at. So the ending big fight scene of the movie is not even a fight. It is a holographic, projected by the Force, Luke Skywalker, who has somehow projected himself from the planet he's been on to the salt planet that everyone's at right now, and is confronting Kylo Ren. And he never hits his lightsaber with Kylo's because he's not actually there. And then Kylo realizes this because Luke Skywalker lets Kylo hit him with his lightsaber, and he's not even freaking there. And so while all of this is going on, Rey lifts up some rocks at the very back of the base behind the mountain so what little resistance people left can escape, because she is a Mary Sue and she can do no wrong. And she has had no training but can somehow lift up these massive boulders. And the final nail in the coffin of what Rian Johnson has done, how he crapped on all of us. He crapped on George Lucas's legacy even more than J.J. Abrams did. He killed Luke Skywalker for absolutely no reason. Is there a reason? I don't know. Will we ever know? Probably not. All we know is that when Luke Skywalker finally shows Kylo Ren that he's actually not there, he's just a projection of himself, but looks real, he disappears. And then we see him back on the planet that he's really at. And he falls just a couple inches, stares at the sun, and dies. That is exactly what Disney, Rian Johnson, J.J. Abrams have done to this trilogy, to this Star Wars franchise. Just killed it. Just murdered it beyond recognition. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, this is the worst Star Wars movie ever made. Excuse me, let me back up. It is not a Star Wars movie, period. It is a fan fiction. What would happen if someone who got the reins to a movie in this universe wanted to split the fan base in half? Rian Johnson, you are a terrible person. You suck. You are a terrible writer, a terrible director, and I hope you never make another movie ever in your life. Furthermore, what really just angers me to no end is we have all these social justice warriors who defend this movie saying, oh, well, you're not a true fan. A true fan would like anything from Star Wars. A true fan would like anything of whatever respected franchise they're a fan from. That's crap. That's stupid. That's ignorant. That's trash. That's not true. Did you ever hear that after Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? No, you didn't. Did you ever hear that after Men in Black 2? No, you didn't. Did you ever hear that in the new Ghostbusters movie? No, you didn't. Did you ever hear that ever from any sequel to any movie ever made that a lot of people said was not as good as the original, which we all know has happened dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times? Have you ever heard anyone complaining about the sequel to a movie not being a real fan? No, you don't, because that's just dumb. It's stupid. And so all of these people that are saying people like me are not real fans because we aren't going to be given this turd sandwich on a plate and call it good, they're really showing their ignorance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time out of your day to watch my movie review. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you agreed to most everything I said. I'm sure you have. And so, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.